A very good evening on this World Youth Skills Day being celebrated on 15th July as a result of a UN resolution of 2014. And it is great pleasure on behalf of the NISTI and the Textile Sector Skill Council to welcome the panelists for today, as well as all the youth, young at heart, everyone joining here today for this webinar, which features our focus on youth and the skills they require to find jobs and also take to entrepreneurship. In this webinar, we attempt to be very focused on the skills for youth and leading them to a purposeful life with jobs and entrepreneurial ventures. We are really not discussing policy issues or what somebody else should do. What we are focusing is how we want to guide you all who are participating in today's discussion to take forward your life to a great future. I just want to spend a minute describing about NISTI. NISTI is part of the Textile Institute, Manchester, and works as a section of the Northern India. And as you probably know, the Textile Institute in Manchester was set up in 1910. It has a great legacy with, Dorabji Tata being India's board member on that particular board at that time. And in 1989, a group of IIT professors joined hands to launch a section. And since then, it has been working as a think tank for the textile industry, working with academia, working with research, working with other industry members to bring the industry academia connection together, as well as to bring to focus applied research and applications. So NISTI has members from corporate to associate members to students and faculty. And we are very happy that we are getting a chance to talk to you and interact with you today at this World Youth Skills Day. The other organization which has joined hands on this is the apex body of the textile sector for the skills. And Dr. Ravu represents that sector, and he is also here today. And both these organizations together bring you a wide spectrum, starting from general areas from Dr. Raj Nehru, the Vice Chancellor of and the founding Vice Chancellor of the Vishwakarma Skill University, giving a real message of greetings to you all about what you should be looking at. And then we look at a couple of more general delving into the subject by Professor Kushal Sen and then Shiv Shukla, the youngest among the panelists, I would say, being a youth-focused seminar. Moving on to Dr. Rao to give a perspective about the largest employer after agriculture. Moving on to the downstream with Mr. Giri, who is looking after production to innovation to skills at the Shahi Exports, India's largest exporter of apparel. And concluding that with a focus on women and how women's participation in labor workforce and productivity need to be emphasized in these times. That is Gurpreet Kaur, the academic director of Apparel Training and Design Center. Now, to just give a few words on the backdrop, I am speaking today not as the chairman of NISTI, but as an author who researched into the subject. And as recent as February 2021, I had brought out this book called Runway to Skilled India. And in Runway to Skilled India, the reskilling, R, upskilling, U, and N, new skilling were the focus. And it also talked about how to be vocal about local and also about the one district, one product. So there is a lot more about how to find jobs in the rural areas and hinterlands. So based on that particular background, I would like to just say a couple of points. There is a Chinese proverb or saying called "May you live in interesting times." But I don't know whether this apocryphal statement resulted in the kind of pandemic disruption which we experienced over the last 18 months. But the life has changed. It's almost like a butterfly effect, as they say in chaos theory. That is, you start with the very minimal changes, but it has the very lasting and devastating impact sometime on certain sector. So maybe the COVID pandemic crisis started as a health crisis, but its impact on various facets of life has been very different. And on education and skilling and the job sector, it has had the maximum impact. Worldwide, it is estimated that 75 million jobs are lost in this pandemic. But there is a good light at the end of the tunnel. About 133 million new jobs are coming to the forefront. And that is where this entire discussion today is going to be placed. How the youth can find lifelong learning, how you can keep on upgrading your skills, reskill yourself with tools, improve your productivity, find diversified areas using your core skills to find jobs. And that is what we are going to discuss today. And it is my great pleasure to present to you Dr. Raj Nehru. When I go through his, curriculum vitae, he is a man who has sacrificed a very lucrative, corporate career to take to a national development goal of coming to the skill development sector, accepting the post of founding vice chancellor of probably India's first or second skill university in the country. And his contribution through the dual system of industry focused, skill training, and the kind of focus he has built on taking the education to apprenticeship linked kind of, schema are something which I think people are looking at across the country. And we are so happy that Dr. Raj Nehru, despite his really pressing schedules, has accepted our invitation to extend to you a greetings on this very important World's Youth Skills Day. And India has, as they say, the youngest population with 600 million people in the youth category. If you look at adolescents and youth together, it's 600 million. And after us comes China, and thereafter Indonesia, and then comes USA. And if you take only 15 to 24, we are about 350 million. And if this kind of a population with 29 years average age, there is a great demographic bulge, and the whole objective of all of us, the government, the industry, the sector skill councils, the academic institutions, skill institutions, are all focused on converting this demographic bulge to a demographic dividend. And India at 75 is just a few months away for us now. There is a kind of Asadi Mahotsav, which has been launched by the government. And we are part of this to launch this conversation with the youth to build the youth skills at 75, India at 75 and beyond. Now I present Dr. Raj Nehru.
Thank you, Dr. Koshi. Am I audible?
Yes, very much, yes.
Thank you. Namaskar to all of you, and congratulations to all the people on this World Youth Skills Day, and congratulations to NISTI for organizing this brilliant event today, and especially to Dr. Koshi, along with my co-panelists, Mr. J.V. Rao, Mr. Kushal, Mr. Giri, Mr. Shiv, and Madam Gurpreet. I think it's a pleasure to share this digital dais with all of you. I spoke to Dr. Koshi briefly, and I was given the impression that I have to just focus on how we can motivate and encourage and create a little bit of enthusiasm among the youths on this Youth Skills Day. And then I glanced through the other speakers, and I realized you are going to talk about something specific to the skills. So I'll do my duty of next 15-20 minutes only on building my thoughts on this Youth Skills Day, World Youth Skills Day. And I'll use the mix Hindi and English for the convenience of all. So, some years back, I had read about a scholar called Lao Tse, and something amazing about this guy that I had read about, that it was written that he was born old. When I read about it, I did not believe on it, and it's not believable that someone would be born old. कोई बूढ़ा पैदा हो सकता है. I didn't agree about this. लेकिन जब मैं इस कहानी को पढ़ता हूँ और जब मैं इसको अपने भारत के संदर्भ में देखता हूँ, when I see it from the India's context, मुझे कभी-कभी लगता है कि इस तरह की कहानियां कितनी सच्ची हो भी सकती है. क्योंकि जब मैं भारत के अंदर युवाओं को देखता हूँ, यूथ्स को देखता हूँ, मुझे कभी-कभी लगता है कि आज हमारा युवा एक बूढ़े के रूप में पैदा हुआ है देश के अंदर. नॉट बाय द एज। मेरे जब मैं बूढ़ा शब्द इस्तेमाल करता हूं, जब मैं ओल्ड शब्द इस्तेमाल करता हूं, इसका एज से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। सो आई जस्ट वांट टू सेट द कॉन्टेक्स्ट राइट। मेरा बूढ़ा शब्द इस्तेमाल करने का ये अभिप्राय है कि शरीर से भले ही हम जवान दिखते हों, लेकिन हमारी जो आत्मा है, हमारी जो इनर एनर्जी है, हमारे जो संकल्प हैं, हमारे जो थॉट प्रोसेस हैं, वो इतने बूढ़े हो चुके हैं कि उसे यूथफुल कहना सही नहीं होगा। उसका उल्टा भी हो सकता है कि हम शरीर से बूढ़े दिखते हों, लेकिन हमारी आत्मा, हमारी एस्पिरेशंस, हमारे भावनाएं, हमारे एम्बिशंस अभी भी जवान हो। भारत, जैसे अभी कोशी जी ने कहा, कि एक यूथफुल नेशन है, लेकिन हमें यह समझने की जरूरत है इस यूथफुलनेस का मटेरियल क्या है। जैसे एक बिल्डिंग बनाने में ईंट पत्थर का काम आता है, सीमेंट का काम आता है, तब जाके बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्ट होकर बिल्डिंग एक अच्छी बिल्डिंग बनती है। तो यूथफुलनेस का मटेरियल क्या है, जो यूथफुलनेस के आधारशिला को रखता है, जो यूथफुलनेस की फाउंडेशंस को रखता है। हमें ये चीज समझनी पड़ेगी कि यूथफुल, आज हम कहते हैं यूथ स्किल्स डे, ये यूथफुलनेस है क्या, ये यूथ होता कौन है। पहले ये बात समझने की जरूरत। जब मैं इसको समझता हूं ये यूथफुलनेस है क्या, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि भारत के अंदर इतने सारे यूथ चारों ओर जब हम देखते हैं, वो फंडामेंटल मटेरियल उस यूथफुलनेस को क्रिएट करने का मुझे कभी कभी लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं पे मिसिंग है। और जब मैं सबसे पहली इंपॉर्टेंट चीज जो मैं यूथफुलनेस की, मैं जिसे क्वालिफायर समझता हूं, मुझे लगता है यूथफुलनेस का पहला क्वालिफायर है वो आंखें, वो आईज जो फ्यूचर को देख सकें। मुझे कभी कभी लगता है अनलेस people have those eyes that can create future, that can see future, that can explore future, it would not be right to call anyone youth. So to me, the first important thing for being considered as youth is having a future oriented mindset. We have, the old is always connected with पास्ट। आप जो भी आप ओल्ड जिसको हम कहते हैं, उनका हमेशा पास्ट के साथ कोई ना कोई कनेक्शन रहता है, क्योंकि पास्ट में उनको साइकोलॉजिकल सेफ्टी और साइकोलॉजिकल एश्योरेंस मिलती है। लेकिन जो यूथ होता है, जो वो भावनाओं के प्रति एनर्जी से जो यूथ होता है, उसका जो नजरिया है वो हमेशा भविष्य के अंदर होता है। वो जैसे ओल्ड को फ्यूचर स्केयर करता है, यूथ को स्केयर एक्साइट करता है। इसलिए हमेशा यूथ जो है वो एस्पायर करता है। वो आप जिन देशों को देखेंगे, जिन सभ्यताओं को देखेंगे, जिन नेशंस को देखेंगे, उन नेशंस में अगर किसी ने बदलाव लाया है तो वो उस प्रकार की यूथफुलनेस ने लाया है, जिस यूथफुलनेस की आज हम बात करते हैं, जिन्होंने नजर हमेशा आगे की ओर गड़ा के रखी है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे देश में पिछले 1000 वर्षों में क्या हुआ है, इन्वेडर्स भी आए, कॉलोनियल्स भी आए, और उन लोगों ने हमारे नजरिए को बड़ा सीमित कर दिया है। मैं जब बिफोर कमिंग टू द यूनिवर्सिटी आई ट्रैवल्ड टू मेनी अदर कंट्री। मैं आईबीएम में था, श्नाइडर में था, महाले में बहुत वर्ष रहा। तो एक दूसरे देशों में जब जाने पे मैं वहां के युवाओं से बात करता था जिनके साथ हम लोग काम करते थे, मैं कभी कभी उनसे पूछता था उनका आइडिया क्या है यूथफुलनेस का, या यूथ होने का आइडिया क्या है, एज ए यंग व्हाट इज देयर आइडिया अबाउट फ्यूचर। एंड आप सरप्राइज हो जाएंगे, हर किसी के पास कोई ना कोई आइडिया है। किसी ने सोचा है कि मुझे कोई ड्रीम कार बनानी है, किसी ने सोचा है मुझे इलेक्ट्रिक कार बनानी है, किसी ने सोचा है कि कोई स्पेस का शटल बनाने में कंट्रीब्यूट करना है, कोई मार्स पे जाने की सोच रहा है, कोई रोबोट्स को इन्वेंट करने की सोच रहा है, कोई तो ऐसा सोच रहा है कि ऑर्गन्स को क्रिएट करेंगे और उनकी एक रिप्लेसमेंट बैंक्स क्रिएट करेंगे। Fortunately, I was working during IBM time with a product called Watson computer. Many of you might have heard. It was based on the artificial intelligence. And believe me, almost 15 years back, they were talking about creating the talking robots who will behave and act like human beings, but would be 100 and 200 times far, far superior in terms of intelligence, thinking, and speed. They have a future utopia. मुझे कभी कभी लगता है हमारे देश में बहुत सारे युवाओं को युवा होने के लिए क्वालिफाई करने के एक यूटोपियन थॉट माइंड में रखना पड़ेगा, कोई ड्रीम रखना पड़ेगा फ्यूचर का, कोई एक ऐसी दृष्टि रखनी पड़ेगी फ्यूचर के लिए जिसमें एक नई कल्पना, अपने लिए हो, समाज के लिए हो और देश के लिए हो। और ये याद रखें, वही मुल्क तरक्की करते हैं जिन मुल्कों के अंदर, वहां के लोगों के अंदर एक भविष्य का एक सपना है, भविष्य का एक ड्रीम है, और वही नेशंस सरवाइव भी करते हैं। हमारे यहाँ एक बहुत अच्छी चीज देखने को मिलेगी, हम हमेशा अपने इतिहास के बारे में बात करते हैं, गोल्डन पीरियड के बारे में बात करते हैं, हम अपने स्कॉलर्स और इन्वेंशंस के बारे में बात करें, ये बात करना बहुत अच्छा है। लेकिन अगर इन बातों को भविष्य के साथ नहीं कनेक्ट किया जाए, अगर इन बातों के आधार पर हम फ्यूचर को विजुअलाइज नहीं किए जाए, अगर हम ये कहें कि हमने बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज, हमारे यहाँ नालंदा, तक्षशिला, सोमपुरा, उदंतपुरी, शारदा, इतनी सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज हमारे देश में थी, हम उनके बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन अगर उनके आधार पर हम भविष्य की यूनिवर्सिटीज का कल्पना नहीं कर सकते, तो उस पुराने कंट्रीब्यूशन का, अचीवमेंट का गुणगान करने का कोई लाभ नहीं। इसलिए जब भी हम पास्ट पे नजर डालें, हम वहां के गौरव इतिहास से इंस्पिरेशन लें, ये बहुत जरूरी है कि वो इंस्पिरेशन हमारे को आगे लेके जाए। नोइंग, जो नॉलेज है पास्ट की, नोइंग ऑफ पास्ट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट इट मस्ट हेल्प अस टू टेक अस इनटू द फ्यूचर। हम, आप देखिए, हम वी ड्राइव अ कार, आप इमेजिन कीजिए अगर ये कार की हम सामने की हेडलाइट्स तोड़ दें और केवल पीछे की दो हेडलाइट्स रखें, ऐसी गाड़ी, सॉरी,
It's correct, absolutely, yeah.
तो ऐसी गाड़ी अगर हम चलाना शुरू कर दें, तो केवल बैकलाइट से हमारी गाड़ी कभी चल नहीं सकती। वी आर बाउंड टू मीट एन एक्सीडेंट। हमारी गाड़ी के अंदर रियर मिरर हो सकता है, लेकिन रियर मिरर का इतना ही काम होगा कि हमें पीछे के बारे में बताता जाए, लेकिन नजर हमेशा हमारी सामने की ओर होनी चाहिए। तो जीवन में, हमारे देश में यूथ को पास्ट हमारा रियर मिरर की तरह काम करना चाहिए, लेकिन हमारी नजरें फ्यूचर के ऊपर गड़ी हुई होनी चाहिए। सो ऐसी आंखों को क्रिएट करना है जो फ्यूचर को विजुलाइज कर सके, जो एक बेटर टुमारो अपने देश के लिए, अपने समाज के लिए, अपने लिए क्रिएट कर सकें। अदरवाइज अगर हम फ्यूचर की ओर नजर नहीं रखेंगे, we will are bound to meet some accidents. So the first thing I want to tell my youth is that step out of that past oriented mindset, get into a future oriented mindset. हमारे देश ने राम पैदा किए, कृष्ण पैदा किए, नानक पैदा किए, बुद्ध पैदा किए, महावीर पैदा किए, आर्यभट्ट पैदा किए, अब्दुल कलाम पैदा किए, अजीम प्रेम जी पैदा किए हैं, सावित्रीबाई फुले पैदा किए हैं, कल्पना चावला, इंदिरा नूई, किरण मजूमदार, कितने सारे लोगों को पैदा किया है। लेकिन अगर आने वाले इतिहास में हम लोग इन गिनतियों को बढ़ा नहीं पाए, तो हमारे आने वाले दिनों में लोगों को हमारे इतिहास के ऊपर शंका होने लगेगी, डाउट होने लगेगा कि क्या ये वही देश है जिस देश में इस प्रकार के लोगों को पैदा किया गया। So we have to touch higher excellence than what we have touched in past. That can only happen when we dream of an ideal, innovative future. So the first thing I want to tell my youth is, on this Youth Day, that please look into the future. Future orientation is the most important thing of qualifying us into being youths, not by age, but by heart, but by energy. Remember, we are completing our 100 years of independence in 2047. What is the idea of India in 2047? That must be driving us. We are still a quarter away from that 100 years completion. Every youth must think bigger, think better, think bolder, so that we can not only excite ourselves, we excite others also. The second thought that I have is, we need to be fearless. We are genetically fearless civilization. आप अगर हमारी civilization, मैं wars की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं युद्धों की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं fearless in thinking की बात कर रहा हूं, मैं fearless in thoughts की बात कर रहा हूं, मैं disruptive ideas की बात कर रहा हूं। अगर आप अपने देश का इतिहास उठा के देखें, हम लोगों ने पिछले 2-4 हजार सालों में बहुत सारे कीर्तिमान सेट किए हैं, चाहे वो in the form of education, चाहे वो in the form of innovation, चाहे वो in the form of scholars, in the form of trade, हमें सोने की चिड़िया कहा जाता था। लेकिन ये सब हमारा पास्ट है। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमें ये बताया गया पिछले 200-300 सालों में, हमारे माइंड को इतना वॉश कर दिया गया है कि हम लोग ये करने के हमारी में ये काबिलियत नहीं है। इस प्रकार के नैरेटिव्स हमारे सामने खड़े किए गए हैं, जिससे हम लोगों को हमेशा लगा है कि हम लोग लीडर्स नहीं है, हम फॉलोअर्स रहे। तो ये जो फियरलेसनेस है, ये आज हमारा एजुकेशन सिस्टम भी हमारे अंदर इनकलकेट करता है, हमारा समाज भी करता है, हमारा स्कूल भी करता है, हमारा परिवार भी करता है। आप देखिए बच्चे हमारे छोटे होते हैं, इतने फियरलेस होते हैं, वो बारिश में भी खड़े रह के खेलेंगे, बरसात में भी खेलेंगे, धूप में भी खेलेंगे। हमारे पेरेंट्स या हम जब पेरेंट्स होते हैं उनको खींचते रहते हैं, नहीं जाओ, अंदर आओ, ये मत करो, वो मत करो, इसको हाथ पर लगाओ, उसको मत छेड़ना। We kill their fearlessness. हम उन्हें डरा देते हैं और उनको इतना फियरफुल बना देते हैं कि वो एक्सपेरिमेंट करना ही भूल जाते हैं। समाज ऐसा नहीं था, हमारा समाज ऐसा नहीं है। हमें फियरलेसनेस की ओर अपने आप को एम्ब्रेस करना है। एंड यही फियरलेसनेस जब हम अपने अंदर एम्ब्रेस करेंगे, यही फियरलेसनेस हमको जो फॉलोअरशिप ऑफ माइंडसेट है टू लीडरशिप माइंडसेट, हमें लीड करना है। और लीड करने के लिए एक्सपेरिमेंट करना पड़ेगा, लीड करने के लिए रिस्क लेना पड़ेगा, लीड करने के लिए हमें मुश्किलों का सामना करना पड़ेगा, और हम फेल भी होंगे, लेकिन वही फेलियर्स हमें आगे सक्सेस की ओर ले जाएंगे। ये दूसरा पॉइंट था मेरा। आफ्टर फ्यूचर, द सेकंड इज फियरलेसनेस। द थर्ड पॉइंट बिफोर आई कंक्लूड इज दैट द फेथ, हमारे को एक बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग फेथ अंदर रखने की आवश्यकता है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम लोगों का जो अपना बिलीफ सिस्टम है, इस बिलीफ सिस्टम को हमें क्वेश्चन करना पड़ेगा। वी नीड टू गो इनसाइड आवरसेल्व्स, we need to understand and recognize our capacities, our potential, our strength, our paradigms. हमारे पास जो ये फियर का जो 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 बिलीफ सिस्टम है ना हमारा, ये बिलीफ सिस्टम हमें एक बोलता है कि आप ये नहीं कर सकते, आप वो नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि इस प्रकार का माइंडसेट हमने डेवलप किया है। मैं अंत की बात अपनी एक स्टोरी से कंक्लूड करना चाहूंगा। मैंने एक कहानी सुनी है एक जापानीज राजा के बारे में। एक जापानीज बहुत छोटा सा राज्य था, उनके पास बहुत छोटी सी सेना थी, और एक बहुत बड़े ताकतवर देश ने उस देश के ऊपर हमला कर दिया। और जब उस देश ने हमला कर दिया, उस देश का जो छोटे देश का सेनापति था वो राजा के पास गया और उसने राजा से कहा कि वी कैन नॉट फाइट दिस वॉर, वी विल लूज दिस वॉर इफ वी फाइट दिस वॉर, बिकॉज वी आर जस्ट फ्यू इन नंबर्स, दिस इज अ बिग नेशन, दिस इज अ लार्ज आर्मी, वी कैन नॉट फाइट देम। द किंग वाज शॉक्ड, हाउ कैन the head of the army, the chief of the army, come to him and tell him? But he had no option, because the chief of the army was saying that we are weak, we are very few, we cannot win this war. He had lost it before even the fighting. He had उसके पास एक गुरु था, सेज था। वो उस गुरु के पास गया और गुरु से उसने अपनी परेशानी शेयर की। गुरु ने ये परेशानी सुनते ही कहा कि ऐसे हेड ऑफ द आर्मी को जेल में डाल दो जो लड़ने से पहले ही हार चुका हो। और उस गुरु ने राजा से कहा मैं तुम्हारा सेनापति बनूंगा। राजा बड़ा परेशान हो गया कि एक सेज जिसने घोड़ा तक नहीं चलाया, जिसने हथियार तक नहीं चलाया, वो मेरा सेनापति कैसे बनेगा? परंतु राजा के पास कोई ऑप्शन थी नहीं। राजा ने उसमें हाँ भरी। वो जो महर्षि थे, वो ऋषि थे, वो उनके सेनापति बने। सेनापति बनते ही उसने सारी फौज को अपने साथ, जो उसकी छोटी मोटी फौज थी, दुश्मन के ऊपर हमला करने के लिए ले गए। जब वो दुश्मन के नजदीक पहुंच रहे थे, एक नदी को पार करना था, नदी पार करने से पहले उसने उस सारी छोटी सी सेना को कहा कि ये सामने मंदिर है, हम इस मंदिर में जाके परमात्मा से प्रार्थना करेंगे और परमात्मा से पूछेंगे क्या हम ये युद्ध लड़ने के लिए जाएं, और अगर आप हमें अनुमति देंगे तो ही हम ये युद्ध करने जाएंगे, वरना हम वापस जाएंगे। सेना ने पूछा आप पूछोगे तो सही, पर भगवान आपसे कहेगा कैसे? तो उसने कहा इसका मेरे पास उपाय है। उसने एक जेब से सिक्का निकाला, परमात्मा से पूछा है परमात्मा आप हमें बताएं क्या है, हम ये युद्ध लड़ पाएंगे, जीत पाएंगे? और अगर हम जीतेंगे तो ये सिक्का सीधा गिरेगा, और अगर हम हारेंगे तो ये सिक्का उल्टा गिरेगा। उन्होंने सिक्का फेंका, सिक्का सीधा गिरा। सिक्का सीधा गिरते ही पूरी सेना में उत्साह फैला और उस सेनापति ने कहा अब तो हमें कोई हरा ही नहीं सकता, अब तो हम ये जीत के ही आएंगे। और उसके बाद वो युद्ध करने निकल पड़े। और अचंभे की बात ये थी, उनसे 10 गुना बड़ी आर्मी को वो सेना ने हरा दिया, क्योंकि उनके मन में तो ये विश्वास आ गया था परमात्मा का आशीर्वाद है, हम हारेंगे नहीं। पर जब वापस लौट रहे थे, उन्होंने महर्षि से कहा ये मंदिर फिर आ गया है, इस मंदिर से हमें आशीर्वाद मिला था, तो क्यों ना जाके एक बार धन्यवाद दें। वो महर्षि ने कहा कि कोई धन्यवाद देने की जरूरत नहीं है, इन्होंने हमारी कोई मदद नहीं की। वो सब लोग परेशान, ये कैसे हो सकता है? उन्होंने फिर उनको समझाने के बाद जब अंत में महर्षि उनको समझाने लगे, उन्होंने वो सिक्का जेब से निकाला और सिक्का दोनों साइड से सीधा था। उन्होंने उनसे कहा कि देखिए जीत मंदिर ने नहीं दिलाई, जीत इस सिक्के ने भी नहीं दिलाई, जीत आपके अंदर के विश्वास ने आपको दिलाई है। अगर आप जीत का विश्वास लेके चलते हैं तो आप अवश्य जीतेंगे। वो कबीर का दोहा है ना, मन के हारे हार है, मन के जीते जीत, उनके मन में जब जीत का संकल्प आ गया वो जीत गए। तो अंत में मैं यही कहूंगा, ये 3 फॉर्मूलाज हैं यूथफुलनेस को। उम्र का कोई तकाजा नहीं इससे। यूथफुलनेस का तकाजा हमारे फ्यूचर की दृष्टि से है, हमारे फेयरलेसनेस से है, और हमारे संकल्प से है, हमारे फेथ से है। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Dr. Raj Nehru. It was such an inspiring conversation and presentation. Greetings by you. It has such a strong message, which is about discovering the youthfulness by looking at the future, and to be not be bothered about fear of failure, or in other words, fearlessness, and the Atmavishwas, the confidence to face the challenges and convert them to opportunities. Great, great points to remember. And, it is so true. In my days in college, we used to read Ayn Rand. You must have all read this novel, novels. And there is Atlas Shrugged, a very famous novel. And in that, the protagonist, I think, says, romancing the past has become very expensive. So sometimes, just getting too obsessed with the past is too expensive again. The companies do not move forward. The education institutions do not move forward. The tools and techniques do not move forward. We get stuck like a groove, in a long playing record. So yes, that is very true, that your rear view mirror is smaller in size and the windscreen is much larger in size. And we should look at the large sized, windscreen rather than the rear view mirror all the time. There is also, you have quoted Dr. Kalam. He was our convocation speaker for our 25th convocation when I was director of NID. And he has this famous saying, dream, dream, dream. Dreams lead to thoughts and thoughts leads to action. And that is what, our youth have to dream, and that dream need to reflect their thoughts, and those thoughts will lead to action. Thank you for this very invigorating message you give us. Now going to Dr. Kushal Sen, to give us a perspective of ubiquitous learning. Learning has become ubiquitous. It is in your handheld mobile now. You can actually be anytime, anywhere. You will be able to access knowledge and skills. And that is where our youth have a great opportunity. Maybe that pandemic was a disruptive time, but what it has led to is democratizing the skill education and education itself. There will be more accessibility. There is more equity in the education going forward. So I now, when I read through Dr. Kushal Sen, his association with educational technology is probably unique and pioneering. And he led the Eclipia channel of IIT for a long time. And the kind of tools and techniques which Professor Kushal Sen has been familiar with by reaching out to hundreds and thousands of students. He said a number, 14 lakh people attend such courses, he was telling me. So we are very happy that Professor Kushal Sen, he says superannuated recently only, but I don't think any professor actually superannuates. And it is his graciousness and interest in this field that he has agreed to talk to us about how our youth can access the today's technologies to actually keep learning, to learn, and to have continuous lifelong learning for their own advantage. Professor Kushal Sen.
Thank you, Dr. Koshi. The first protocol, as we say, is, am I audible? So I hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yes. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I thank Dr. Koshi and Dr. Vijay to become a part of this discussion today. We have few minutes. Within this few minutes, I'd like to say whatever is possible. Let me just start with today. That is the 15th of July. All right. Of course, you have the World Youth Skills Day, no doubt. And we are all celebrating this day. But every day so many things happen. It's not just the one thing that happened. Let me just talk about a guy called Camillo Golgi. All right. Camillo Golgi, the statement says, discovers a Golgi apparatus. All right. In 1898 on 15th of July. Right. So this date. Now, how this word, you remember, I have just used discovers. an apparatus. I mean, normally you invent an apparatus, you don't discover an apparatus. So what is this discovery? The discovery is that this particular apparatus actually exists in our brain already, in our cells, which control our neurological system. And that particular thing that he found, and he and his colleague found, actually, and it was named after him, this apparatus actually exists in our body, in the cell, which governs our neural. Therefore, it is called Golgi apparatus. All right. This is a delicate network inside the cells, all right, which are essentials for transmission and reception of information. Imagine that. So we are talking about technology intervention, which means transmission and reception of knowledge. So I thought this person is very important for us. Fortunately for him, as for us also, he and his colleague got a Nobel Prize in medicine in 1906. That's an important day for us. Just looking at the formal employment, all right. In India, the data may be here and there a bit. Close to 81% of all employed persons in India make living in an informal sector. Like they're not studying like you. They are not probably lucky enough to get a job which you are expecting. With about 6.5% in the formal sector being employed, there is an employment in the household sector as well. So there are books and studies done by various organizations which talk about this. That means there's so many people working and may not have got the opportunity to get skilled. A very interesting part. So what's the dream? You said that let's dream. Dr. Abdul Kalam also said dream. My dream would be that every learner, a potential learner, has an opportunity to gain knowledge and get certificate as well. This knowledge should be available in all languages, whatever the language the person understands. All kinds of skills, directly related to the work or indirectly related to the work. Maybe even without going to a college. Is it possible? There are so many skilled people actually. For example, in textile, we talk about Banarsi Sadi, right? The people who actually design and develop this particular thing, I don't think they're getting any due, compensation. Somebody else, of course, is making money and somebody else is paying also because they love it. Skilling. Of course, learning starts from school, but how to do things practically is what is the skilling part of it. Knowledge, of course, good. We had ITIs. The government thought about it earlier. Something didn't happen right. What's wrong? People can keep talking about it, right? Resources can become an important thing. How much money do you put in? How much HR do you have? What kind of equipment that you have? Do you require upgradation time to time? Upgradation of machines, data, books, takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And then how much value does the society give to that person who's got this kind of a skill and some certificate from an institution? Well, things are changing. Skills universities are coming. We have, Dr. Dr. Raj Nehru, who's the Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma University of Skills. We have in Delhi Skills and Entrepreneurship University. New education policy is good, but let's understand, the backlog is massive. We're not talking about lakhs, we're talking about crores who must be somehow brought into this game where everyone has equal opportunity and earn. What did not happen? Why it didn't happen? Why the whole workforce has not been trained? Fewer institutions, yes, per unit, let's say thousands people, how many institutions that we have? Education, maybe everyone was not educated the way we wanted them to, but everybody wants to earn. That's the positive part of it. Everyone wants to have a reasonably good life. So that's the positive part. And by the way, they do work. and know a few things as well. Agriculture to construction to household to formal sector, whether government or private, people have been learning. But during this learning process, somebody said the certification is also important. You see, let's say talk about Australia. A compensation that a person in Australia who may be a mechanic trying to do certain kind of things, maybe construct a house, and an assistant professor in university, they may be getting the same salary. Look at the UK. I had been there and we saw road repair. A guy comes in his own truck, open SUVs, they call it trucks. Bring out his own tools, does the repair work, and in the evening, dines in the same place as an executive of a company. It's true in most of developed countries. Why? Why is this dignity? We talk about labor and dignity. How did he earn it? Of course, he must have knowledge. That's why he gets a job. But also he has certificate. In Australia, for example, in some of the countries also, you can't paint a wall of a house if you don't have a certificate. People want to know, do you know how to paint? The certificate is one which tells anyone, how do I know that you know? You see, last 1.5 years, all of you, all of us, we have tasted the blood. Why? Online classes. We had a lot of hesitation from the teachers, resistance from the learners, but at the end, we have from pre-nursery to higher education, everything. It could be done. So you're getting more confident. Some questions. Can we teach remotely? Do we have to answer this question? We are attending the seminar. We used to have webinars once in a while. Otherwise it was all in person. Today, no problem. We just learning. As long as you're motivated, there's no problem. Can we handle technology? Youth, as we call the young students, they know how to handle technology better than us. They never had resistance as much as, let's say, our generation had. So today you talk about Shah Rukh Khan coming on the TV and talking about Baiju, which has got such a big company, which obviously sponsors an IPL match. Yeah, it's a lot of money there. The question that remains is, whatever is happening in the pandemic, is this going to be a normal? Consider our panel discussion itself, whether it's going to be a new normal or whether it's change. But let me just tell you, more than 90% of the tech firms across the globe would prefer work from home for next 2 years, but they're tech firms. I'm not talking about textiles. So what do we do? Adapt? Why not exploit? E-environment. Who is our rescuer today? Whenever I want to know certain things, that I've got doubts about something, what do I do today? Go to Google, search about a thing. The chances are you will get an answer. The digital environment gives you a lot of things: storage, retrieval, anytime, anywhere. Reach is there. The boundaries have, time and space have been absolutely, vanishing. Do we have resources? Yeah, in the past so many years, we have created resources, which are digital resources. I'm considering NPTEL. NPTEL was called National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning. Learning, not teaching. National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning. It is the largest repository of engineering courses in English language. Of course, now we have new terms: Swayam, UGC, CEC, AICT, IGNU, National Open School, NCRT, and of course NPTEL. We started this. All of them now have resources. We started NPTEL and Eklavya somewhere around 2003, which was basically an enrichment either through television or through the net. In 2014, we thought, all about 5 IITs and IISc Bangalore initially took up that project. 2014, we started what we call as NPTEL online courses for certification. And till date, it's going strong. I'll give you some numbers. Of course, at the universal scale, you have Mama Google and other search engines for doing all kinds of knowledge. Just a word about it. Word about it. Upscaling and scaling. How much can you scale? You have so many people to teach. So can we open suddenly so many universities and institutions? It's resources one, effort and time also is going to be one. So we started something, understanding what's called the open online courses. Open means anybody can study. You don't have to be young or old. You don't have to know a particular background, only then that you can do. You don't have to know quantum mechanics or a lot of physics to go to the quantum mechanics class. No, anybody can do that. And you decide if it suits you, go through it. That means like a course. It offers scalability. Therefore, they're called massive MOOCs, massive open online courses. Massive. Massive means in one course which you're running for about, let's say, 8 weeks course, 12-week course, there may be 100,000, maybe more than 100,000, a million students. Possible. You say, yeah, a single teacher or a single group of teaching staff can actually engage them. You have durations, you have live meetings, and then proctored exams. We have been doing proctored exams. At the end of the day, you go to a center, there'll be exams. Let me just tell you, when we started this particular thing, the question that we asked is, does the thermodynamics favor it? Why would people do it? How will they come? Why should they come to the open thing? Of course, MIT had done it, and other universities in the US and the Europe were doing MOOCs. Some courses were being run, and we're talking about actual full courses being run. We started in 2014. The people who enrolled were something like 112,000. The people who actually gave an exam, only three courses in computer science and electronics. 3,000 odd people actually appeared for a final exam. In 2020, how many people? 41 lakh people registered, over 41 lakh people registered for 810 courses, out of which about 5 lakh, more than 5 lakh people actually gave final exam for certification. You see, that means certification is not compulsory. You can learn, appear in weekly exams also, no problem. But if you want a certificate, then you have to get to the final examination center. Otherwise, you can learn and go. But how does this number, starting from 1 lakh, which was massive for us, gone to 41 lakhs from 2014 to 2020, and 21 is going on despite the COVID situation. Some of the examinations were conducted. In this kind of environment, what normally is done is that you have certain videos from certain type of people, recorded, pre-recorded, and then given. Looking at the time, I'll just trying to be a little more, I'll try to finish this quickly. The teachers or the people who are generating these courses almost become Amitabh Bachchans of the day, right? And what you require is some kind of software. Various types of softwares have come up: Importance, Gradescope, Moodle, Teams, and general learning management softwares where everything can be handled. We are looking at AI going to be the part of the whole education process, where each and every student actually can be taught at the speed at which he or she is comfortable. And of course, you require a certain part of hardware. The success of this program has been so much that NPTEL and the NOC, which we call as NPTEL online courses, have become a benchmark for the country and even beyond. These courses that have been developed are referred to not just by students in India, but also students from abroad and teachers and people who are already working. They don't need a certificate for promotion. So the age is no bar, time is no bar. You can learn in the night. In whenever you are free, you can give exam. If you don't have to take all the 5 courses together, you can do 3 courses, 1 course, 2 course. Leave it if you don't want it. It's free. Why is it free? It is because the government of India is supporting it. You see, all the people say, but if you want certification, they have to pay a certain amount for logistics and so on and so forth. For the skills part, the difficulty, and engineering also, and medicine also, the difficult part comes in the practical and practice. The theory is not an issue at all, because the same video can be referred 10 times before you say, well, I have understood. If you're not understood the first go, you can keep on referring to it, which never can happen in a class because you can't repeat a class. Of course, you can think of going back to the teacher, but not so easy. The scalability is something which the technology will provide. And if we have the massive backlog, as I say, then the theory part can be done. From the experience part of it, let's say about 10% of them are actually interested. Others think, well, I learned and I can start my things. I can be very efficient and so on and so forth. That actually can work. Important thing is when you get a certificate, you get value. When you get learn knowledge, you get the opportunities keep coming. And you can, as somebody said, that you don't have to only learn textile only. You want some other skills to be learned where, let's say, the course doesn't allow you to do so. You can just keep learning. The courses are run from IIT. I mean, the SWAYAM, let's say, the Government of India's program is SWAYAM. But you can do courses from anywhere in the world. Whatever interests you, courses, you can get a certification. So I would like youth, young students to explore. If you have never gone and checked the NPTEL website, please do go there. It's just, you type it and you will learn a lot about it. So, short time I have. There are other panelists and they have much to say. Thank you very much. The world is yours, the students and the youth. The problem is that I consider myself young, though I have also superannuated. Thank you. But it's miles to go. But we have to be together in this effort to ensure that anybody who wants to learn can learn freely without any difficulty or any hesitation. That's what probably the technology intervention can do. We have had successful model. We can discuss offline whenever it's required. I'll stop now because my time is up.
Thank you, Professor Kushal Sen. It has been most insightful. When my son jokes with me that most of the learning which he had has come free, he refers to the the Coursera's and the Khan academies and Academies and various the open source courses which are massive open source courses which are offered. And actually it is something which our youth need to explore further. And it is anytime anywhere kind of ubiquitous learning which is possible today. And I have seen that our people are now learning while cooking. They are learning while driving. They are learning. All activities lead you to learning if the kind of technologies which Professor Kushal Sen explained to us. And IIT is a great example. I know that when I went to IIT Guwahati, the Professor Ravi Mukashi was telling how the design courses have been put together by IIT Guwahati and Mumbai online, and a large number of people were using it. So this is something which I think our youth should carefully listen to. Knowledge is not expensive. Skills are also not expensive. You have to take the time to explore these sources which are available and get yourself equipped for the challenges of future. And Franklin Roosevelt said, we may not be often able to build a future, but we will be able to build skills for the youth to face the future. So I think that is what we can do. And I want to thank again Professor Kushal Sen. Now we go to Shiv Shukla. He's, I would say that one of the most brilliant minds in recent times on analysis and research work for global, context. And we have worked together earlier on future of jobs. I remember when in the FICCI Development Committee, he has been a consultant to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and he is currently also a consultant to a number of organizations. But two important things which he has done. One is in the Make in India context, the kind of manufacturing skills required, the future skills required, was one part of his study which he had done. And recently, Future of Skills is a major international study which he has completed. So I think, this is an incredible opportunity for us to listen to Shiv Shukla for giving us an insight into the kind of new age skills and new age jobs which will be available for the youth of our country. I present now Shiv.
Thank you, Dr. Koshi-ji, and I apologize to the audience because I'll have to keep my video off because of certain network connectivity, but that's how technology comes with its own pros and cons. We have had two very fascinating speakers. One, of course, was very, very motivating in terms of what skills are there, how the youth should dream about the future of jobs and skills. And currently, the last speaker, Professor, he talked about the importance of technology and how the online MOOCs platform are going to play a vital role in not just in terms of getting certificates, but also look at certain important skills as well. While Dr. Koshi talked about some important assignments I have been part of, they currently I'm also working on something called Future of Universities. I'll take perhaps a minute to quickly talk about this as well, since Professor Sen was talking about how things have changed. Globally, there is a discussion that going forward, the physical structure of campuses will become a place where students will go and validate their knowledge. Like you mentioned, you simply Google it, you'll get the information. You go to n number of platforms, starting from Baiju's to Vedantu's to Simply Learn. I can name n number of them. They're already available. They're short-term courses, bridge courses. As an end user, you get a whole lot of information. But campuses where primarily, which will be a mix of synchronous and asynchronous learning, it will become a place where you go and interact with your peer. There will more social aspect will be taken care of, more physical aspect will be taken care of in terms of certain extracurricular activities. So if you look at the 5 areas of development of a child, and how I put it as social, emotional, spiritual, physical, and important cognitive mind. So that's where I think I'm going to talk more about the last aspect, which is the cognitive aspect, in terms of interlinking with the skills which are going to be important going forward for employment. Now, while I talk about it, it's important to understand that job and skills, especially in the emerging areas of innovation, etc., should all be seen from the lens of the current pandemic. Although I'm not going to talk more about the pandemic, but its impact will certainly be seen why I talk about the various systems and processes, the skilling, the new age skillings, which will be required going forward. So basically, if I keep my focus on the textile, because I have sort of extracted certain data points from the global studies which I recently completed. When we look at the global textile apparel industry market, which important aspect is the retail market as well. Valuation is almost $1.9 trillion of dollars, and this was a figure of 1920. Now, before the pandemic was projected, it was projected to reach to almost $3.3 trillion by 2030, with an annual compounded annual growth of 3.5%. Now, while we look at these numbers, it's important to understand that emerging technologies were already transforming and it's still expected to transform the shape of the textile and apparel sector. If I talk about certain newest technologies, skill sets, so for example, let's say data applications, artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D printing, these were the technologies which were already there before the pandemic as well. But considering the certain health standards, keeping in mind the safety and hygiene of the employers, this is expected to further enhance and upgraded in the existing ecosystem, primarily from the industry perspective. Furthermore, COVID-19 has also shown that the need of blockchain technology to create transparency and transferability throughout the supply chain, and it provides a lot of opportunities within the market. Now, while we were doing this research, we spoke to almost 700 plus CXOs from across the industries, including textile apparel as well, and also had the component of fashion industry. It also included the representation from more than 45 countries, where we also conducted around 1,300 plus online surveys. These numbers are important to mention so that all the audience, the students who are there part of today's program, they should also know that this is something which is a global phenomenon and how things are changing. Now, I feel that one must look at the impact on the jobs and skilling from three important aspects, which are across industries, and they are sales, production, and international trade. Why I say this? Because these three important aspects also has certain implications on the hiring trends and employment trends also. Now, between the January 2022 till December 2020, there was a global fall of sale in textile and related businesses by 79.6%. At the peak of outbreak, when it happened in China, shortages of raw materials and inputs were the primary concern for garment sector. Especially the footwear producers were very, very concerned about disruption in the supply chain aspects. Now, if I talk about globally, more than 72.4% of textile workers, they lost their jobs during that entire period of last 18 to 19 months time. Now, important to note here is that out of those, almost 75% were women. So since we have somebody who will be talking about the inclusion and that aspect, so I will not get into the details of it. Now, the report had sort of covered important 4 trends, which are going to be the drivers going forward. So these 4 trends, it's not just it has happened because of pandemic, but there were any which ways there before the pandemic as well. The important aspect is technological advances which have happened. Now, if you look at, say, for example, technologies like, the laser cutting, 3D printing, or any other advanced machines which have come, the industry have observed that the potential focus of robotics automation is going to be almost 46 to 48% going forward. And this is entirely from the pandemic lens. If I add the additional before the pandemic, where the automation has already happened, the club number could be anything around 73 to 74%. So what does it mean? It means that around 73 to 74% of industries in textile apparel are going to have new age machines. Of course, which will have certain implications on skills and jobs as well, which I'm going to talk about in my subsequent point of view. Now, the second important driver is digitization. Now, when we look at digitization, it's likely to have an ever greater impact on the industries in decades to come. It had started before the 2019-20, still is going to have a greater impact. For example, let's say if you talk about radio frequency, IT tags, sensors, AVRs, blockchains, of course, AI and all, they are expected to cause more and more disruptions. Digitization will further shape how products are designed, how supply chains are managed, how and where production takes place, because that's our important aspect. If one has to look at the current logistics and supply chain, perhaps that's going to be the future norm, where the big factories will have to be somewhere around the consumer itself. With COVID norms expected to be in place for some time, digitization will certainly boost customization as well. I can click a picture on somewhere in social media and send it to the designer or the manufacturer. I'm expected to get some customized product as well. Now, in this report, 83% of respondents of the survey, they indicated that ongoing digitization plans is halted, but it's going to be shown on the balance sheet in scheme of investments and all in a very, very prominent way going forward. So which means 83% of industry leaders, they feel that digitization will continue, pandemic or no pandemic. Third important aspect, automation, which we are all aware. I'll just give the number here. 72% of respondents stated that automation will further increase post-pandemic and when things start, becoming normal. Now, 4 important driver is personalization of manufacturing. Now, in North America, the apparel, fashion, and beauty industry generates approximately $600 billion of in annual revenue. And it also employs more than 4 million people. Now, while we were doing this survey, more than 60% of respondents, they said that consumers will be more aware of certain aspects now. For example, let's say a person who had COVID or even without COVID, perhaps they will look at the skin types. What are the various complications of post-COVID norms? In the pandemic, we have also seen more and more people have started buying pets as well. So, perhaps they'll also like to see that what color the pet is liking or not liking. There are tools and technologies which are like mood trackers. So there's a lot of technologies which are going in the market, being launched perhaps every day. And that's where more and more personalization will be required, more and more personalization products will be required. Now, while all these changes are happening and expected to happen, what are the skills which are required and will be needed going forward? Now, I had sort of made a elaborated pointers on it, but I will only talk about the skill sets which will be there. So collaboration will be something which will be extremely important, and that too in the age of technology. Big data analytics. Why? Because there's so many data points which are there. So many predictions which are required to be done. Soft skills like empathy, resilience, robotics designers will be required, integrators will be required, drone service engineers will be required, cyber security. By the time we are having this webinar, India needs more than 28,000 cyber security experts. We don't have cyber security experts. Meta programming experts, UX and customer servicing skills will be required. New age communication will be required, because since we have moved to this work from home setup, more and more visual presentation is required. Gesture creation will be required. System thinking experts will be required. 3D manufacturing, creating certain aspects on 3D manufacturing will be required. In addition to these, some skill sets, there are other areas where all the youngsters need to focus on. And what are those areas? See, demand of collaborative team skills will be greater than for individual personal skills. All the more reason why, because we are working remotely. The manager, the super boss, he or she doesn't need to see you in person because you're working remotely. So that collaboration will not be just on the individual level that you're going and talking to your manager or to your reporting boss, but perhaps within the team, larger collaboration will be required. Like I mentioned, one size fits all will no longer be there. There will be more customization and personalization in place. Life-centered and transformative skills will also be required. For example, post the pandemic, there will be a new normal of business orders as well. So perhaps if Maruti plant is in Gurgaon, perhaps they may want to set up a new plant because of the certain business needs in somewhere else in the country. So you need to be in a state of situation where you can be adaptive to the nature, adaptive to the working condition very, very swiftly. So that is something which again will be required. Demand for multidisciplinary generalist profiles will also be there. Because of the COVID restrictions, you need to know the basic norms of IT skills. You need to have the basic Excel sheet skills. You need to have a basic Word, PowerPoint, and some basic, digital, I would say, hygiene skills. Just one data point here. In 2018-19, Niti Aayog got one study done, and it was quite fascinating and intriguing, and I would say shocking as well. And this is again an irony of this country where, education and skills are considered a separate subject. But thankfully now government has sort of realized, and now there is one minister for education and skill. So in this study, Niti Aayog found that the students who are coming from Bihar and UP, they are spending almost 15 to 18,000 rupees to learn English. Now that's where at one side we are saying a child is spending more than 14 years in a school system, but again coming to Delhi and Bombay and paying 18,000 rupees just to learn English. I mean, imagine the kind of, the gaps which are there, which is why the basic skills of communication, the IT skills will be extremely, extremely important and required. Hyper cognitive yet very foundational skills. Now, what do I mean by that? Out of the survey and the respondents, almost 350 plus sector experts, they echoed the view that the new norm of education and training experts will have to focus on flexibility, perhaps openness, which Professor Sen rightly mentioned, that you can go to any online courses basis your time, your availability. So that flexibility and openness to learn, to reskill and upskill yourself will be required. Understanding the complexities will be required. If your colleague is not coming to office, what could be various challenges, troubles. So these empathy will be extremely important going forward. Socio-economic, cultural skills will be required. This will be important to manage that cross-functional communication, cross-functional community build-up. If you look at certain sectors like e-commerce, like IT, social media platform, there are many other platforms like Ku and all, they require a lot of cross-functional, cross-cultural communication. How do you deal with that? So co-creation will be required. User-centric approach will be extremely, extremely important going forward. So if I have to summarize the additional skills other than the technical skills which I talked about, there will be emotional intelligence, there will be logical thinking complemented by the basic digital and AI skills. Content creation will be again something very, very important, as simple as writing a business letter. I mean, I'm highlighting these aspects because that's where a fresher who is passing out of college or an apprentice who has completed apprenticeship needs some very, very basic skills. And that's where I come to the point that the horizontal integration of skills is extremely important. I remember one conversation where Dr. Koshi had highlighted in one of the meetings that how important it is to perhaps set up various stages while we are talking about skilling and upskilling. A child, again, taking back to the same research of Niti Aayog, a child coming from Bihar and UP has fabulous cognitive skills in terms of science and maths. Where he lacks or where she lacks, perhaps the communication, perhaps the IT skill. So that's where horizontal integration, perhaps defining these are the basic skills which are required. These are some advanced, these are super advanced, these are super advanced. So there could be multiple ways of how we can sort of design and differentiate on that. Now that takes me to my last section of my speech is, while we look at the challenges, the problems, the skill sets required, how do we address it, as in the action point? Now the action point I will bucket under three important aspects, and I will call it 3D approach. When I say 3D approach, it stands for digital, data, and decision making. Now I'll elaborate on it. Now digital, for example, let's say European textile and apparel sector is made up of approximately 117,000 companies, which is of of which are micro companies and SMEs, and that altogether generates approximately 180 billion euros of turnover, employing 1.7 million people. Now, as we move towards digital adoption as a country, as a society in India as well, the basic digital reskilling would be key going forward. And for that, what would be required? Perhaps from the employer side, there are certain action points. You can provide certain financial support to the young people who have joined the company. Italy has already started or announced a reskilling fund where industry is also contributing. And Italy, as you all know, is a hub of sort of textile and other activities. Capacity building. So you can always assign somebody from the team who can become a Spock of capacity building. You can have train the trainers program to that. A proper basic digital infrastructure is needed perhaps in each and every organization. Close communication will be key, because like we all have gone through a lot of trauma, we don't know what the future is going to be. So that mental blockage is there, that fear is still there, the sense of insecurity is still there. So I think an approach where one-on-one communication within the leadership, with the employees, will be a key going forward. Flexibility in implementing apprenticeship. Perhaps we'll have to look at digital apprenticeship in a big, big way, how we are going to do that. Master life skills will be required, where we all know that collaboration, future literacy, openness, and all that aspect. So that digital side of it. Now, when I say the second D, that is data. Now, in India, we have more than 1.36 lakhs of data points. Starting from filling up a school form, till filling up Aadhaar form, we create massive, massive data points. With internet penetration and more data points are being created through social media and various other platforms. Now, it's important for all the youngsters and perhaps the mid-age career professionals also to have some basic data crunching skills. What do I mean by that? Perhaps so think about a person who is assisting. If you go to any university's website these days, you will find that instant WhatsApp chat, may I help you, sort of thing. Now that person, if it's not automated, if a person is sitting there, he will have a direct access to me and to gauge my inclination toward taking admission in that university. So he or she has access to a very valid data point. So every individual need to have some basic data collation skills, data analyzing skills. How do you make sense of that data in terms of, there are so many data points. Now, Europe will create approximately 1.3 crores of jobs in data related field. And this is something which was in 1819. I'm sure with pandemic and digital workplace, this number is going to increase. Now, we as a country are also moving towards data-driven society. There's a lot of push from the government as well, Digital India, Jan Dhan Yojana, and n number of other programs as well. So we must focus on training youth and the fresh graduates or the mid-career professionals on data mining and data analysis, extremely important and future skills. Now, my third D is decision making. Now, decision making cannot be seen as top-down approach anymore. A back-end e-commerce platform person has first-hand access to data in terms of consumer preferences. Hence, adequate training on data-driven decision making, instant decision making is extremely important. Now, again, giving an example of the European market is, they have this job role, which in India also we have. It's called data interpreters, which they sort of collect data and they make sense of data. So under these 3 Ds, where I talk about the digital, the data and decision making, there are some actionable points which are required, not just from the industry, but also from the individuals, because at the end, we are the end learners. We have to commit ourselves to learning, skilling, and reskilling ourselves. Important, just to, before I conclude, we are living in a, VUCA world. I'm sure we are all aware of this term, especially the youngsters who are there on the panel listening to us. So it's important that we become good researchers. We keep our eyes open to the information, because information is going forward, will take you to different places. One research I was doing, I was interacting with the head of the design, and this was in one of the leading automobile industries. I asked that person that, what are the hiring trends in your organization? He said that, Shiv, these days we do not hire the engineers from engineering colleges. Perhaps I will prefer to hire the design school graduates. I asked in a very, very, I was surprised to know this. I asked the person, why is it so? Because you are manufacturing cars, you will need more technical expert. He said that, look, if I look at the end consumer, end user, only 13 to 14% are really aware of the technical aspects of a car. Most of them, they come here for design. At the most, they ask, kitna deti hai? There's a famous ad on this as well. So what I'm saying is, in the entire journey, in the entire professional journey, we must keep our eyes and ears open. Fill in your mind with a lot of updated information. You should know where you have to go for right data points. You have to be a person who makes data-driven decisions. With that, I will stop here. Thank you again, Dr. Koshiji and fellow panelists, for this opportunity. I hope I added some value to the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shiv. Of course, we are running short of time, but it was very important to know that, any kind of learning today to acquire new skills, digital skills and data skills will be in the right direction. But as there is a saying goes, anything good in this will be an uphill task. It is not downhill. So whatever is good in life, you'll have to go a bit uphill and make your effort. life is all about 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And we now go to Dr. Rao, such an iconic figure in the textile industry with more than 50 years of experience. And I have worked very closely with him during 2009, 10, 11, 12, up to 17 period, when we were working on integrated skill development schemes, massive skilling effort. And I've been a great admirer of Dr. Rao. Before that, more than, I think, 13 years as Director General of NITRA, and now heading the Sector Skill Council. And more than 35 books to his credit. He is a encyclopedia, I would say, on textile knowledge. Though the time is very short, but we cannot miss Dr. Rao's insightful, comments. Thank you, Dr.
Rao. Thank you, Dr. Koshi. So far, the participants must have listened to the speeches given by Mr. Shea, Professor Sen, and also from Vice Chancellor Rajiv Raj Nehru. They're all talking about what is going to happen and what kind of preparedness we must have with reference to skills. I would like to now give a different dimension to the present context of what is happening right now in the textile industry, and also what is happening in all other manufacturing industries, and what is that we should do to see that we have the right kind of skilled workforce. You all must have heard that even in today's felicitation, which Honorable Prime Minister had talked about, he and also the Honorable Minister who was talking about skilling, upskilling, reskilling, etc., etc. But I have a fundamental question to ask to myself. Is the industry today equipped with the right kind of skills which is required? Let us not talk about upskills and future skills. Let us talk about, is the industry ready with the right kind of skills they need today at the shop floor, be it textiles or any other manufacturing activity? My answer to this, I'm sure that majority of the people from the industry will agree that we do not have the right kind of skilled workforce in the textile industry and also in other industries. The second important point is that even if you train a person, you find that in a short span, the skilled workforce migrate. So attrition rates are very high in most of these sectors. Now, if you ask the question why such kind of migration is taking place and why industry is not able to retain, I find that there are several reasons, but one of the most important reason is that the worker whom we train for skilling has not been properly briefed about the nature of work which he is supposed to do. And whatever orientation that is done maybe at the age of 18, 19, 20, when he comes to the textile factory, what kind of work has to be done. So what is actually missing is that we are not imparting awareness programs. We are not conducting awareness programs at the right age. What do I mean by not imparting the awareness programs at the right age is, if you look at a child passing, let us say, elementary school and coming to senior secondary or secondary school, and if you ask the kid, what do you want to be? His immediate answer will be, I would like to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. But nobody talks about the vocational programs which we talk about today. So the first and the foremost thing is that somewhere in 7th or 8th or 9th standard, the school-going children must be informed. There should be some kind of awareness programs informed regarding what are the various kinds of opportunities they have in vocational education and how they can acquire those skills and more importantly, what kind of career progression they will have. This information must be given right at the school level so that by the time he is at the age of 18 or 19, he knows what is ahead of all these kinds of blue collar jobs, and he will have enough time to select what he wants, and then he will take up a job of his choice. If that kind of attempt is done, there is less probability for the people to migrate or leave after seeing the industry for about 15 days or 1 month. So because of shortage of time, I don't want to be too elaborate. I would like to be very crisp. The first and the foremost thing is, whatever awareness you have to create, that should be created, that should be done somewhere in the school level so that they have enough time to select what they want. Second thing is, the society also should change a bit in terms of giving the right kind of place for people who acquire this kind of skills. I can give you a small example. Because of this pandemic, I never had my haircut almost for about 3 months. So my son told me that, why don't you talk to Urban Clap and get that barber home? And my auntie, which is about 80 years old, she said, how can a barber enter into our house? No, that is the kind of mindset the earlier generation and even in my generation people are having it. Whereas my grandchild had fought with her and said, what is wrong with this man entering into our house? He is as clean as you are, so he should be given the right kind of place. So what is more important today is that these vocational training programs should receive the right kind of status which they deserve. And today, if had he not come to my place and my children were not allowing me to go out for a haircut, so I would have been now with long hair. So the situation is now changing, and the present generation should be educated that they can be looked at par with any of the professionals which we consider them to be high end in the society. So the second point which I said is the recognition which need to be done. The third thing is that most of the manufacturing sector job roles cannot be done online, and virtual. They need to be done only on the job or on the machine. So if you really want the right kind of skills to be done, the industry should come forward and adopt the system which the government has talked about today, like apprentice schemes and all, and make sure that the youth are given training on the job. Unless they are given on the job training, there will be no benefit to the industry. Now, if you look at the other side, when we talk about textiles again, we have one is organized mill sector, and we have the other side is unorganized or decentralized sector. Now, if you take, for example, under unorganized, you have, say, a powerloom weaver, you have a handloom weaver. You'll be surprised to know that though in our council, we have given training to various kinds of job roles, where the number of people who have been trained is more than 2.5 lakhs. We have not taken any handloom weaver for training as a fresher. The reason being, the handloom weaver acquires the skill in an informal fashion at home rather on the job. So the industry should come forward and create a system where they attract the freshers and provide them opportunity to acquire the skills on the job and make use of the schemes which are readily available. So this is about the skilling which we are talking about, which badly required. So to put it again in a nutshell, awareness at the school level. Second, trying to bring the industry in forefront so that they give on-the-job training. Third is the society as a whole should recognize the vocational skills, so-called blue-collar jobs, and give them the right kind of place which they deserve, like any other professional programs for which we give today. I think if these three issues are addressed collectively by the society, I'm sure we will not be breaking our head how to promote the skills. The second point which we are talking about is reskilling and upskilling. As far as reskilling is concerned, the classical example is that if you say in the case of 80s, early 80s, there was a sudden boom of demand for software personnel. And you must have seen it. Almost every street corner had one computer center, which was giving training for all kinds of people. And we found that many of them who are not engineers or not who are not engineers, but who are only did some 10th or 12th or maybe some arts or the science programs, were able to get that kind of education. And today they are all commanding all across the world. And we are today #1 in software. So what I'm trying to tell is that in the case of upskilling and reskilling, the industry should give some kind of incentive for the people to get themselves qualified with new skills. Plus, today we do have the right kind of tools, very powerful tools, where we can use IT and get those, acquire those skills. But then the close interaction with the machine manufacturers is something which is lacking. So if we really want to do upskilling, we need to bring in the machine manufacturers into the fold and make sure that the workers get upgraded in their skills and they are ready for future skills. So institutes like NIST can think of preparing some kind of study materials which can be introduced in various regional languages for the school-going children, giving rise to the information of, today we are identified 38 skill councils with about 2,000 jobs. So if somebody can prepare some kind of a study material where the school children are exposed to all these kinds of jobs, plus if you can also bring in the local authorities to concentrate on those skills which are relevant for that particular region or the cluster or the state, so that the students who are getting exposed to this will definitely look for opportunities to work within their cluster or a village or a city rather than migrating to metros and look for jobs, which is again another important point which we have to address, because all the industries are now located at the 2-tier, 3-tier, they're not at 2-tier and 1-tier in metros, and they're not at the remote villages. So in order to make sure that the migration doesn't take place, we should create the right kind of environment within the city, within the village or the cluster where they can acquire those skills and work there itself. The last point which I would like to mention is that there is a saying that if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad must go to the mountain. Why am I mentioning this is that in the case of textiles, most of the workers come from far off places like Bihar, then Orissa, Eastern UP, and then also some parts of Northeast like Assam and all. Now, if you take, for example, Bihar, and if you take, for example, your Assam, the Orissa, there are no textile factories. So the industry should now look for establishing such kind of industries within those states so that the workers will not need not go away from their native place and work from far off places like Maharashtra or Gujarat or Tamil Nadu. This again is possible provided the investment opportunities are conducive and the state governments are proactive in attracting those things. So it is the industry which need to interact with the state governments and create an atmosphere where the industry can go to those places where the labor is there. Because in 1960s, when I was a graduate of textiles, we had one subject called textile mill planning. One of the favorite questions was selection of a site to establish a textile factory. And one of the things they said that for spinning, you need to have a controlled atmosphere, especially the temperature and relative humidity. So South Tamil Nadu is the best place where you can have it. Okay, Tamil Nadu. So now I'm trying to wind it up. But today the things are different. You can create the atmosphere wherever you want. So the industry has to look at to migrate to other states where labor is available, like what the Indian industry is now looking at African countries where they would like to establish the factories because there is abundant labor there. On similar lines, you should also look at to these states so that the skilled workforce will be taken care of and there will be no bottlenecks. I think I'm well within my time limit. And Koshi, if you want to say anything, you are most welcome. Otherwise, I'm finishing it.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rao, I think you have presented a blueprint which one should carefully look at to rejig the skilling mechanism and how this whole logistics of this skilling also need to be orchestrated. We are very grateful to your presence and the very insightful discussion. Dr. Rao actually represents the entire textile value chain, and it has got more than 45 million people working. And people say that another 60 million you can add. And that is the kind of figure. After agriculture, there's the largest sector which provides employment. Like the textile, which has warp and weft, it has got entire length and breadth of India. You will find some textile activity or other because it is a heritage industry for us. Unfortunately, people call it a sunset industry many times. In my opinion, it's a sunrise industry if you start looking at it as a fashion ecosystem from the consumer point of view, integrating all the elements of textile and serving the customer where they are headed. Now, the downstream of this textile sector is the apparel sector, which has got about 19.1 million, though many studies say it's 13 million. But if you really add the domestic sector also, it is about 19.1 million. And many studies project another 20 million can be added. And if you ask, one of the persons who has led it from the front is Sri Giri. And that is how more than 200,000 people work for that company. And it is the largest export. I don't know the correct figures, but more than 6,000 crore probably now. And it is also a large supplier to domestic brands in the country, and also a leader in skilling themselves, having taken up PACE program. All this is not possible for the last 25 years of Mr. Giri's work with, Shahi Exports. And, I always find that, the industry perspective is always brought forth so strongly by Mr. Giri. And we would like him to address how the youth can look at the sector still and find good careers and see how their careers are built through companies like you, who take it also to the villages, as Dr. Rao has been advising. You have a plant in Shimoga, you have a plant in now, I think, Jharkhand, and it is spreading across India, taking where the youth are. And here is the answer for youth, to wherever you are, and there are Shahi Exports and people like them taking the jobs to you. Here is Mr. V. Giri. J.D. Giri, sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Koshi. I'm really grateful to NISTI for giving this opportunity and to be one of the panelists on this occasion. The World Youth Skill Day, perhaps only youth is qualified to speak on this day. And I find myself the youngest one amongst the distinguished panelists. So I'm quite qualified to talk about it. post-COVID period has been really very kind of a challenging to all of us. I mean, the COVID pandemic came without any warning, without any kind of any sign, and suddenly everything got changed, and a lot of changes were brought in, and then the people have been going through a lot of turmoil, and things, of course. Anything that comes, or any calamity or any crisis that comes, it has an end. It has an expiry date, It can't remain forever like that. So all of us will have to think after the long kind of dark tunnel, there is a light. We can see the light, and we can definitely overcome the present situation, and we can again enter into a bright future. As far as the youth is concerned, I want to tell them, I mean, the apparel industry is such an industry which is very labor intensive. In 2016, Mr. Arvind Subramaniam, who was the chief economic advisor, he wrote a chapter in Economic Survey that time, and he highlighted as far as the apparel and textile industry is concerned. And he said, apparel industry is 80-fold more labor intensive and 240 times more labor intensive than your steel, 80 times more labor intensive than auto, and 240 fold labor intensive than steel. So that is the kind of this thing, the employment potential that we have. But if you look at the employment pyramid, if you see this thing pyramid, 80% of the at the bottom you will find the unskilled, you will find semi-skilled, you will find skilled, you will find highly skilled. And thereafter then 20% makes up, for the other one. Now finding, the people for that 80% bottom is also a challenge. What will happen particularly in apparel industry, we have 70% female workers. And the attrition rate is also quite high. They work, for some time, and thereafter then they leave the job, for different kind of reasons. So there is a constant kind of a requirement in apparel industry. Another aspect, what Dr. Rao was telling, that Muhammad has to go to, or the mountain has to go to Muhammad. So whatever he said. So the industry has to go to the villages rather than people coming from villages to the cities and urban clusters, because it creates a lot of difficulties, a lot of issues, a lot of problems for the migrant workers as well as the cities also. Cities are also getting congested, and there's a pressure on the resources. So in fact, Shai has taken that initiative, and almost about 18 of our units out of 54, these units are there in rural areas where the people can get the training, where the people can, and particularly you will find various graduates and postgraduates girls who cannot travel to the cities, and they prefer remaining there in their own secured places, secured villages. They can come daily to the work and back home in the evening. So that kind of an environment is being created, and people are thinking that the industry should go to this thing. Of course, government is also incentivizing these things. There are social advantages of this industry. Particularly, I will say that as you rightly said, that we have a lot of centers, training centers, and the requirement is constant for taking people in the industry or in our units. So we have about 47 centers under Samarth, and almost 20 centers under upskilling. Our skilling, reskilling, that work is constantly going on. And what happens that it is not easy kind of a thing, and particularly as why I said it is a socially desirable kind of industry. We have our own people, and they go to the villages, they go to remote villages, in hilly villages, where people have not seen anything as such. We mobilize the people from those places, bring them to our centers, give them the training, and after training, they are placed in our units at different locations. And this is really changing. This is, this initially they were hesitant, but subsequently when somebody goes, from their village and gives the success stories, then it becomes very, very motivating for other people also to come to the centers and then have these jobs in our companies. Attrition is also very, very high, as I said. Attrition is almost 7%, 8% per month, and it means in a year's time you will find that the entire factory becomes empty. So empty in the sense that the people are coming, people are going. It doesn't literally become empty, but this is the opportunity. Why I'm saying so? I'm highlighting from the point of view opportunity. Now, this being the case, it is very, very important that the youth has to come forward. Youth has to get motivated. Youth has to be, told that awareness has to be created. And once that is created, people are willing to come. They want job. They want, some sort of a secure kind of a thing. And people have been working. They have been, advancing in their career, and they are, fulfilling their aspirations. They have dreams, but somebody has to show them the way. And perhaps in our own little way, as ATTC also does, in our own little way, we are also doing the same kind of this thing. This is both ways beneficial. It is our requirement. At the same time, we also do this social kind of obligation. So this is the important aspect which I wanted to bring to the fore, so that the people can think about joining apparel industry. There is a career, for at all level, you have, Mr. Shiv also elaborated what are the various kinds of opportunities, what are the various kinds of skills which are required. So these definitely, these all skills, since we are advancing technologically also, and the technology is also very important for this thing in our industry, so that we can increase our efficiency, we can increase our production, and we can remain competitive in fast fashion industry. Ours is a fast fashion industry. So here, to have a control on cost is equally important, very, very important. And this can be done only when we have a skilled manpower, highly skilled manpower. We are using the technology, and that way only we can keep the cost minimum, and then we can become competitive. Now the opportunities, I will also again tell you, the last year's figures are, during the last year, our industry's turnover, the entire, India's apparel industry, the turnover was about 16 billion. Now, after this pandemic, it has come down to 12 million. The opportunities are more. The people, the buyers, they are looking, towards us that, India should fulfill their demand. And this can be done by India. Now, I am not, since the time is also, quite, too much time has gone. So I'm not going to take much time, but there is going to be some sort of a message or some sort of, the advice to the youth that they have to really, keep their vision. What Mr. Raj Nehru has also said the same thing, that you have to have the vision for the future. You have to have, you don't have to have any fear, to enter in the industry, and you have to have a faith in yourself. With this, I would like to again emphasize another thing, that there has got to be a focus. You have to have the concentration, what you want to really do. And if you chalk it out, then it becomes very, very easy for anybody to enter in the industry and make the career. As far as the focus is concerned, I recall a small kind of incident which was there in Mahabharata, and that incident, everybody knows about it. Drona Guru, he was asked, why Arjun is your favorite disciple? And he wanted to show why he is my favorite disciple. So Guru Dronacharya took everybody to a forest, and he had already placed one bird, of wooden bird, and he asked everybody, what you see in this, on this tree? Everybody said, no, we can see the bird, we can see the plants, we can see the branches, we can see leaves, we can see the sky. And he said, everybody is not qualified. Then he asked, Arjun, what is that you see here? He said, I see only the head of the bird. Do you see anything else? He said, no, I don't see anything else. So that is the kind of a focus, that is the kind of a concentration which is required. And if you have that, then, nothing is impossible for you. This is the message, I just wanted to give to the youth, so that, they can keep this small story in their mind, concentrate, whatever the discipline, whatever the your chosen field is there, just concentrate on that, and you will find a success, and you will become a very, very skilled archer in your life. Ultimately, what everybody wants is that I should have a respectable life, but the quality of life has to be, very good. So for that, they have to really work, towards that goal. And this can be done only when they are really inspired. And what is happening around now, the complete ecosystem has been developed. The government is coming forward, various institutions are coming forward. The universities are there, and various programs which are there. So with this, they can take advantage, and they can really make their life better. And once it is done, this is not only for themselves. Once, once they get the skill, they are contributing to the nation. They are the part of the nation building, and that pride one has to take. And once you do that thing, I think everything is, the past glory that we are talking about. We can link the past glory with our future vision, and we can go ahead, with this kind of, the things in our mind. So I think the time is up, so I will not take much time. So thank you so much for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, Giri sir. It is such a pleasure. You have summarized a major message in just a simple word: focus. If a person has focus and the person puts behind efforts, there is no question success will be theirs. No doubt about it. So for all the students who are listening from NIFT or from other fashion universities, IITs, wherever, ITIs, please remember, apparel sector is now relocating a lot of their manufacturing units to where the youth are. So look for opportunities, train yourself, get the necessary skills, and be focused on what you want to achieve. So now we go to a very important topic, which is about the women's participation in labor force. No country can progress without women coming to the forefront of work, of labor force or productive workforce. And any country, when you look at some 76% of people in Korea, the women are in workforce, and US has also something like 65%. So in most of the advanced countries, the women have gone to the top of the workforce level. I've visited some factories in Vietnam and Cambodia. The way the women have really now becoming supervisors and managers and running the show is really impressive. And India has just about 20% out of 450 million people in the workforce. Just about 50 million are women. And that too, in the pandemic, in the urban centers, 6 to 7% it has become in terms of participation of women. So it is a very worrisome factor. And we, Mr. J.D. Giri said about how the women are 75% of the workforce of Shahi Exports. And that is the case with large number of exporters in the country. So here is where I think we should pay attention. And Gurpreet Kaur, who is the, who is in the front of, BVOC programs, and also training a large number of women, almost 73% of the women trained under ISDS were all women. So now I invite Director Academic Matters, Gurpreet, to give the last presentation of a rather stretched World Youth Skill Day webinar, because we can't be, time is really infinite, but our knowledge is infinite, time is finite. So Gurpreet Kaur.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. And I thank NISTI to give this opportunity so that I can touch upon the academia intervention in skilling youth and particularly women. And I congratulate all the youth who have joined in here and otherwise also on this World Youth Skill Day. I say that this is your day, and you represent about 50% of the total population of India, which is below 25 years of age. And the world is today looking out on you, and your skills are going to be the wind beneath your wings. I'm going to touch upon first on the academia intervention in skilling youth, and thereby I'll speak a little about the women empowerment.
Your video is off?
Just a little, sir. The connection is not that good. So
Okay,
maybe I should be heard and not seen.
Okay, right.
So I represent a pan-India industry-led organization, Apparel Training and Design Center, and we've been established by Apparel Export Promotion Council, which is the premier institution which is looking after the apparel exports in India. And we proudly say that we have trained over 4 lakh youth, and out of which about 89% of them have been women. And we have our training centers, which are in urban, semi-urban, and rural. And as Giri sir had explained, that the apparel industry give opportunity at all levels. So if you look at the skill pyramid, the women are required at the shop floor. They are also required at middle management positions, and they are also required at the managerial level. So ATDC is addressing the skill requirement of the apparel industry by giving the programs at the certificate, diploma, and BVOC program. And here I would like to touch upon the vocationalization of education and the new age degree, which is the bachelor's in vocation degree, which has been offered by ATDC, and ATDC has been a pioneer or the first of the institutions offering a bachelor's degree in apparel and fashion. And we are offering 2 streams in vocation, touching upon the apparel manufacturing and the entrepreneurship part, and also looking after the fashion design and retail part, which is the requirement that we have seen in the last 4-5 years. We are also doing a lot of programs on vocationalization of school education, as it is very rightly told by the Vice Chancellor that we have to make the skill aspirational to the youth. Now, the more early we introduce youth to a skill, is he going to try a skill? So looking at that, there are various schemes and where the vocational education and a skill in some way is being introduced to school children from 8, 9 standards onwards, where they can try a number of skills, and maybe that helps them in picking the right career, which will give them a job which they want to do when they graduate or they pass out of the school. So we are doing a lot of programs on vocationalization, both in higher education as well as at the school level. And I want to say that there are about 1.5 crore people who are working in the apparel industry, and there is a likelihood to increase this to about 2.14 crore in 2022. And if we look at this figure, we also should understand that furthermore, there are new skills which will be expected from a new entrant when he joins the garment industry. As Giri sir had explained, that the automation of the apparel industry, the new skills which are required, the ATDC is doing a lot of work in bringing the industry and academia gap much closer and giving such programs to the youth where in ATDC centers where we have simulated labs, they can get a training on what they will be doing when they go to the industry. So we are focusing on giving training and making the youth industry ready. So this is one thing which ATDC is working on. And the future of skills, as Shiv had explained, this can be looked upon only when there is industry and academia unison, and there is respect for skills which is given to the youth or to the candidates when they are right at the school level. As far as the women empowerment is concerned, Dr. Giri, who represents the Shahi exports, he has very well told that there is a large number of women workforce which is employed in the apparel industry, and about 60% of the garment workforce in India is female, and many women are also contributing from the home-based work. Now, there are many schemes which are available for women to take skill programs, and we at ATDC are partners for imparting livelihood and skill training programs under various ministries. Just to name a few, that Kudum Shri is a poverty eradication and women empowerment program. It is under a mission by the Kerala government. And under this, the women are giving livelihood skills and they can form self-help groups. And Amazon has also come forward. And there is a initiative called Amazon Saheli. Through this initiative, the women who are in the rural or who are in the semi-urban areas, they are also given digital skills on how they can promote, or they get to understand a platform through which they can market the products that they are making. So you had very rightly touched upon the one district, one product initiative. For this also, I guess, there are initiatives under which the learner is not only imparted skills, but it's also given digital know-how on how to market the product. The AEPC and Marks and Spencer has a program, Power, on gender equality at workplace. And we at ATDC has tied up with Gap, which is an international clothing giant, for giving soft skills programs under PACE, which is Personal Advancement and Career Enhancement, where soft skill training is provided to all the girl students who are taking various skill training in ATDC and also in the industry for effective communication and on problem solving, giving them modules on financial literacy where they can manage their finances and also take care of their health and hygiene. These areas, they on soft skills, they have to be an integral part, because other than the domain skills, women also needs these soft skills to be able to sustain at the workplace. And this sustenance at the workplace is very much important, because certainly we want to reduce the attrition rate in the garment industry, and we also look upon increasing the female labor force participation ratio. So I believe that the soft skills are going to help women in addressing various challenges that they get at the workplace. Now, we were also looking at, in your topic, India at 75, and we see Haryana Skills University had also taken it a little beyond, which is at India at 100, and what kind of skills the youth should imagine, and the youth should have some future, and they should be fearless, and they should have faith, and with which they should, join an institution and then join the workforce. I just say that if we go by India at 75 for employment generation, the employability of labor force can be increased. There are 4 areas which we can focus on. We can focus on health, we can focus on education, focus on skilling outcomes, and focus on the massive expansion of the apprenticeship scheme, which is now being a part of the curricula and delivery at the various skills university. So I want to address the youth who have joined here that the vocationalization of education has brought in a lot of avenues, not only in apparel fashion sector, but also in automation. And you must try a skill to be able to get motivated. And understand that the skill are going to give you a meaningful job right after you get out of an institution or from a college. So, sir, with that I close my
Thank you.
speech on.
Thank you, Gurpreet Kaur, for a very insightful, input. And I'm sure that, the BVOC program's potential, the candidates who are listening or students who are listening would, really look forward to. And we had a productive discussion, though the time has overrun because of, I think, the abundance of material which all of our panelists had. So I will now not take time to do the takeaways from this, but I think every panelist today, starting from the message and greetings to Gurpreet Kaur, everybody has covered different dimensions to enlighten the youth about the opportunities and some challenges awaiting them in the post-pandemic world. I won't say post-pandemic; it's still transit pandemic, but the disruptive times are still going to be there, and it is our resilience, our faith, our way of looking at things. It is not the challenge which should define you. It should be the response to the challenge which should define you and your life. Very much. Good night.